Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to do another ranking, and it's going to be of a specific character that I have quite a few dolls of, a handful of dolls of, and that is the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. I've done doll rankings like this before. It seems like you guys tend to like them, so today I don't own every Wicked Witch of the West doll that has ever been made, but I do have 5 dolls of the Wicked Witch of the West that I guess you could say are like my top 5 because they're the only ones that I bought. And we're gonna go through them from my least favorite to my favorite. So starting with number 5, this is the Living Dead Dolls Presents Wicked Witch of the West. If you're not familiar with these dolls, they're not really usually considered fashion dolls. They're kind of like more of like a horror kind of doll. Living Dead dolls, there's usually like, there's a couple of them behind me actually, so you've probably seen some of them in my videos in the background. I used to collect them a lot, and I don't really anymore. This is one of like a handful that I have in my collection currently, but she's very cute. I used to collect these a lot when I was like in high school and college age, and I actually ended up selling my entire collection of them after I graduated from college, and she's actually the only one that I had in my previous collection that I ended up buying back because I just loved her so much. She's very cute. These dolls actually, while they are more of like this sort of baby doll, I guess like younger looking doll kind of look, they do tend to be very detailed. So if you do like horror stuff, these are pretty cool. I don't think I have much content on my channel yet about Living Dead dolls, but I could always do some videos about these if you guys are curious. I do have a handful of them. Her dress is very cool. So her face is a little spooky. She's a little kooky, a little spooky. I'm kind of into her. Her dress is very detailed. These dolls also, they tend to have really chunky shoes. So they actually can stand up on their own. These don't usually need doll stands. She's very cool. She's got all these lacy details on her bodice. I like the green ribbons and details that kind of match her green skin tone. Very beautiful. I mean, I like her. She's kind of scary. But also, she is the number 5 on my list, so we're going to get into some really spectacular Wizard of Oz dolls, or specifically the Wicked Witch of the West. I do want to say, starting with this one, what makes the Wizard of Oz kind of a complicated thing to make dolls of, the Wizard of Oz is kind of weird when it comes to like copyright infringement. And essentially, the original Wizard of Oz novel, which includes all of these characters, of course, from the movie and everything, it is actually in the public domain. That novel is like 120 years old or so now. So it's quite an old novel. It is in the public domain. You can write Wizard of Oz fan fiction as much as you want and publish it as an original novel. That's totally legal and acceptable. However, to my understanding, the original Wizard of Oz film with Judy Garland is still owned by Warner Brothers. I think Warner Brothers owns it. And then also there's some sort of weird, complicated like licensing thing with Disney, where like Disney has some element of claim to the Wizard of Oz. I'm not really sure how that works. I'm not a lawyer. I just know that Disney also has produced Wizard of Oz spin-offs and whatnot that were, I think, in some way related to the original movie. It's hard to say. So a lot of these renditions of the Wicked Witch we're going to get into are different. they're very different, but there's a lot of really common similarities that make this character very iconic. The Wicked Witch of the West, I think, is a really cool villain, and there have been so many different adaptations that focus on her story more so than the story of like Dorothy and the other protagonists from The Wizard of Oz, probably due to the copyright situation where like you can't really make another Dorothy that looks like Judy Garland without getting sued by Warner Brothers. So that's probably why they focus so much on other characters. But the Wicked Witch of the West, she tends to be a main character in a lot of adaptations about the Wizard of Oz, and we'll see that a lot. The only one we're really not going to talk too much about, unfortunately, is The Wiz. So for whatever reason, at least not that I'm aware of, I don't believe there is a doll of Evillene from The Wiz, which is like, I believe Evillene is basically like the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wiz, if I remember correctly. But unfortunately, I don't know of any doll lines that were about The Wiz. And if there are any, there were none that I could find of specifically Evillene, which would have been the Wicked Witch of the West. So if you guys know about any like Evillene dolls, definitely let me know. I'd love to know. Even if she does exist, she's probably very rare because I've never seen that. So I just wanted to bring that up because unfortunately I don't have any dolls from The Wiz. It's kind of like one of the biggest adaptations of The Wizard of Oz that there's just not a lot of merchandise surrounding. But we are going to go through some other adaptations. So starting with this lady, she is my number 5, this Living Dead doll. And then we're going to move on to the next one. All right, this pains me. This is really painful. But this is my number 4. I hate to do this to Elphaba. So this is Elphaba from Wicked. So if you're not familiar with Wicked, it's basically fan fiction of The Wizard of Oz, more or less. It's a series of novels that focus on the Wicked Witch of the West as the main character, as opposed to Dorothy. So her name is Elphaba, because I don't think she has a name in the original novel, but in Wicked she does, and it's Elphaba. Wicked is a musical that will always really be dear to me. I just love it. It's a great musical. It was probably really what made me fall in love with the Wicked Witch of the West as a character. I just love the idea of an Elphaba doll. However, this one really is not my favorite. It's not my favorite. So this is a signature Barbie, and I just think she's a little lazy, honestly. The packaging is cool. It has this sort of iconic Wicked logo, and then it's a signature Barbie, and I don't know. From the molded hat to her face sculpt, which I don't know, her face sculpt is not bad for Elphaba. It's just a little like, I don't know who that's supposed to be. Like, it's definitely not supposed to be Idina Menzel, who played Elphaba in the original Broadway cast. I don't know. I think it's just like a random Barbie face sculpt, to be completely honest. And the dress is cool. The dress is interesting. Now, I haven't taken this out of the box, even though the box is a little bit damaged. I actually won this at a silent auction. It was like a charity benefit that I happened to be at, and there was like a bunch of dolls on auction. I have no idea why. I don't know if like Mattel was a sponsor or something, but I ended up getting her and the Glenda doll that goes with her for a really good deal, because it was a silent auction in a place where like you wouldn't expect to buy dolls. Like, it was so random. So I think I was one of the only people who really cared about the fact that there was like, for some reason, like weirdly rare dolls being auctioned off. So these are the only ones I bought. I bought her, and then I also bought the Glenda doll that goes with her. They're not great. They're not my favorite, honestly. I got a good deal on them. I think for the two, I paid maybe like $100 tops. So about $50 each. Not horrible for like Barbie signature dolls that are not currently available at Mattel Creations. Honestly, nowadays that's about the price of a Barbie signature doll anyway, so it really wasn't a bad deal. But like, truthfully, these dolls are kind of like, what? I don't know. I'm not a fan of these. I'm really not a fan of these. Her dress is fine. Like, it looks intricate and cool. Maybe one day I'll take these out of the box. There's something about her, the opacity of her skin tone is very confusing to me. It just looks like, I get that she has like sort of a fantasy skin tone in general, but the green that they used, it just looks very like cold and kind of dead. I don't know. There's like, she looks like she's like turning blue. There's something about her that I don't really connect to her very well, which is really sad because she's supposed to be Elphaba. She's probably my favorite rendition of the Wicked Witch of the West. I also just want to say, side note, I am a fake fan because I have never read the book. Sorry about it. I tried. I thought the book was boring. I've only ever seen the musical. Sorry. But anyway, here she is. She's going to be my number 4. Sorry about it. All right. So this is my number 3. I love this doll. I love this doll so much. This isn't actually an older Wicked Witch of the West doll, although she's not as old as she looks. She kind of gives the vibe of like a vintage like 1950s Barbie, which is of course what they were going for, but I think this doll came out around like 2010-ish. I bought her secondhand on eBay at some point, so I don't remember the exact year that she came out, but it was around the time when they were doing a lot of the like vintage face mold. She's so cute. I love her so much. Look at her face. She has the nostalgic Barbie face. Her dress is also very 1950s, like a high school play of The Wizard of Oz kind of is what it's giving. Her boots are very cute. It's kind of hard to see them, but very cute. She's got the nice little like black and white stockings. Her dress is sort of like the very like right below the knee kind of 50s like poodle skirt. And then instead of a poodle, they put a little flying monkey. It's so cute. I love the idea of this. I feel like it's really creative and fun. I think there was a Glenda for this as well, but these dolls are not super easy to come by. So I probably paid a good chunk of money for her. I don't really remember. Honestly, I don't think I paid anything crazy for her because I think I just saw a good deal on her one day and grabbed her. But I love her. I think she's great. I think she's a great depiction of the Wicked Witch of the West. Now, she has kind of the opposite side of the problem where I think they kind of went a little too light on her skin tone. Because once again, she does look a little, like, dead. Like, she's a little too, like, lifeless. I feel like you can take green and make it look like she's still alive. And I feel like both of these dolls have kind of failed at that, unfortunately. The first one was just kind of very, like, bluish green. And then this one, it's just very pale. Also, I believe she's the only one who comes with, like, a bristled broom. I could be wrong. Some of them have plastic brooms, some of them have bristled brooms. Hers has little bristles on it. This part's plastic, though. And also, if you are wondering, she is not made of the Silkstone material. I thought she was when I first ordered her, which is part of why I was excited about her. But she is just like your standard Barbie material. She is not a Silkstone doll, even though she has the like nostalgic face mold. But just in case you're wondering. Also, her hair is done up in this nice little bun. It's very neat and tidy. I like her a lot, actually. She's kind of a standout in my collection because I don't have a whole lot of the vintage face mold Barbies, but I couldn't resist her. I knew she was going to end up in my collection eventually, so I just waited until I finally found one on a good deal. And her box is cool, too. Her box has all of the, like, sort of old school looking art to it. And your little dog, too. Very cute. All right, so she's going to be in my number 3 spot. Number 2. This is kind of a weird one for me because honestly, I don't remember this movie. I don't remember this movie at all. If you are not aware, in like, I think 2013-ish, maybe, Disney did a spin-off of The Wizard of Oz called The Great and Powerful Oz, which is kind of like Wicked, except it's more so focused on The Wizard of Oz, and it wasn't like that interesting that I remember. I was gonna rewatch this movie before I did this review because I just don't remember this movie at all. But in this movie, The Wicked Witch of the West is played by Mila Kunis, and this is sort of like the doll of her. It's sort of Mila Kunis as the Wicked Witch of the West. This is so cool. I had to put this one highly ranked because it's a Disney Store doll. It's like a Disney Store exclusive from, I think, 2013. I could be wrong. It might be a little older than that. Or maybe a little newer. I'm actually not sure. Yeah, the box is a little banged up. I've always considered taking her out of the box, but I just don't really feel the need to, honestly. It's sort of, I go back and forth with her because the box is banged up, but also she looks so good in the box. So her face sculpt is really what gets me. She has the coolest face. I wish there wasn't so much glare on this package, but she really... I remember in this particular film, they did a lot of prosthetics and stuff like that, because this is supposed to be Mila Kunis, who is a gorgeous actress, by the way. But this is like their Wicked Witch version of her. I don't remember why she looked like this, though, because I remember in this movie there was like some sort of transformation or something. She doesn't start looking like this, and I just can't remember. I probably should have rewatched that movie, but I don't remember it being interesting, so I didn't really have any interest in rewatching it. But I couldn't resist putting this doll so high because she just looks so good. I mean, the detail in this is just incredible. Like, her outfit even, it's so detailed. There's so much glare. I wish there wasn't so much glare. But there's so much detail on her bodice. All this like leather and lace stitching. The whole dress is quite literally leather and lace. She does have a plastic broom, but I will say it actually looks quite nice. I think what they achieved with the plastic broom is actually kind of nice from far away. You don't really mind that it's plastic. Also, she has this big plastic witch hat, which normally I don't like when clothing is made of plastic, but I do understand why for such a large hat they had to do it out of plastic. And then I'm not sure if she has any hair, to be completely honest. I've never taken her out of the box, so I'm not sure. But she does have this like wimple thing that kind of like, if she does have hair, it's covering all of it. She could be completely bald. I'm actually not sure. But yeah, she's great. She's so great. I can't say enough about how much I love this doll. I believe there is also a Glenda from this line as well. I just don't have her. I don't collect Glenda as much. Glenda's usually harder to find for some reason, and she's usually more expensive, and I usually think she's less interesting.
Only bad witches are ugly.
So sorry about it. I like a villain. I am a villain and I like a villain. So I just like the Wicked Witch of the West. And I like the stories about the Wicked Witch of the West where she's more of a redeemable character. For instance, in Wicked, she is the protagonist because she really becomes like the scapegoat for like a political conspiracy in Wicked. Like that's the whole point. Sorry if I'm spoiling Wicked for you, but the book's been out for like 20 years, so. But anyway, I love the Wicked Witch of the West, and I love this rendition of her. I just love how scary she looks. If you've watched a few of my videos, you might know that I do also love horror. So when something kind of is like on the verge of like horror and fashion, like if you've ever seen Dragula, like she looks like a contestant on Dragula. Like, that's what she's giving me. And I love that. I think that's great. So yeah, she's going to be my number 2. I don't really have a lot of honorable mentions for The Wicked Witch of the West, but I do have one that I feel like must not go ignored. Has anyone here seen Wicked? I mean, is Jade and Bella, who are, by the way, in Rainbow High, if you've never watched the show, they're almost canonically lovers.
You'll always be part of this group, okay? No one's taking your place.
Like, they're in love with each other. Do they not give anyone else, like, Glenda and Elphaba vibes? Am I the only one that feels that? I mean, they literally did Bella as a witch. This is not Jade's outfit in the actual lines, but I dressed her in this because she specifically looks more like Elphaba to me. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I have to put Jade in here. I know that she's not literally supposed to be the Wicked Witch of the West, but there's something about these two together in the show and on the shelf in my room that always reminds me of Wicked because it just reminds me of Glenda and Elphaba. So I had to put them in here. Number 1. This is one of my favorite dolls in my entire collection. This doll was what inspired me to make this video. I was not going to make this video until I owned this doll because the last thing I wanted was for anyone who didn't know about this doll to find out about this doll before I owned her. I love this doll. She was one of my Grail dolls for like years. I always wanted her. She's very expensive. I think I found her at a decent price on eBay, and I still honestly almost paid, I think I paid a little bit less than $300 for her. This is the gold label, The Wizard of Oz Wicked Witch of the West Barbie. So this doll, I think, came out about maybe I could be completely wrong. I feel like it was like 2010-ish, 2011-ish. I feel like I was very young when this doll came out. Like, I feel like I was like maybe graduating high school, maybe in college. I don't remember exactly. I remember seeing her, being like, that's gorgeous, and knowing that I could never own her because she was very expensive. And I just couldn't, at the time, I could not imagine paying that kind of money for a doll. But, and you know, the joke's on me because like, what, a decade later or however long it's been, I paid probably way more than she retailed at. But I just knew that I had to have her. I knew that she was going to end up in my collection eventually, and I had some money set aside, so I just did it recently. I just did it. I shouldn't have probably, but I just wanted her so badly, and I'm not justifying this for anyone. If you don't have the money to pay for a really expensive doll, I completely understand. I have been there. I certainly understand. Me being able to buy dolls like this is not something that I've ever been able to do in the past, like, maybe most of my life until very recently, like the past couple years, I've been able to afford these kinds of dolls. And to this day, this is probably the second most expensive doll I've ever purchased, I would say. I'm just saying, like, this is not something I do very often. This is something that I've only ever done a handful of times for very special dolls, is pay this kind of money for a doll. But, like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she's not that special to other people. Maybe she's not. I just love everything about her. I think her face is gorgeous. I know earlier I was complaining about Elphaba's face being kind of generic, but the fact that this is just supposed to be a gold label Barbie. This isn't supposed to be like Elphaba from the musical. Like, she also has green stripes in her hair, which is honestly not my favorite. I think that kind of dates the doll a little bit. The like chunky streaks of green is a little dated, but I don't mind it so much because it's not that prominent. The outfit, though, is really what sells her to me. I mean, the dress, it's kind of that like leather and lace vibe, but instead of the lace, they used more of like a fishnetting, which I think is kind of like a little dated now as well, but I don't mind so much. And then her shoulders, she kind of has that like cold shoulder situation happening, except it's kind of reminiscent of like a slash and puff sleeve, which I believe is what she had in the original movie. I could be wrong, but it's kind of like an old-timey like slash and puff sleeve, but like made out of ribbons. Very cool. The sleeves are fishnetting, and then she has this like corsety, bodicey thing. The stitching is impeccable on this. Like, not a stitch out of place. The actual construction of this gown is perfect and also very complicated, like very difficult to execute this kind of stitching at that level. This was really back when Mattel used to give us like really, really nice dolls. I also love the silhouette. If you watch a lot of my doll reviews, you might notice I just do love this silhouette. It's one of my favorites. I know that they do this a lot. It's a very common doll silhouette because it's a way to get a lot of drama without using a ton of fabric, because the only part that's using a bunch of fabric is the sort of like trumpet part of the skirt, but love it. Her broom also has the little bristly pieces, and then she has this beautiful little like sheer cape thing. Her shoes are just kind of like a strappy heel situation, but they're not bad. I'm not mad about it. They look cute. You don't see them anyway, so it doesn't really matter unless you put her in a different dress or something. But I probably will never take this doll out of the box, honestly. There's some dolls where I don't mind taking them out of the box. Usually, with a doll like this, it just depends on whether or not I like the box. And I do think that she's displayed very nicely in the box. I do also think the color of the box really makes her pop because she's wearing all black. So it's very nice. She doesn't have painted nails, but she is also an older doll, so I don't hate it. I think she's on the Model Muse body. It looks like a Model Muse body to me, just with the way that she's standing in the box. She's kind of like twisted a little bit, so probably Model Muse. I don't know any other Barbie body that's like that twisted up. And there's also like no articulation. I mean, as you can imagine, I'm pretty sure it's Model Muse, so she barely can do anything. she can barely move. Also, she has a fabric hat. She's one of, I think, like 2 or 3 of this whole set that have a fabric hat. And I love that they chose to do her hat as this like sheer sort of witch hat situation. It's just so cool. I just love her so much. I can't say enough about how much I love this doll. In my opinion, one of my favorite dolls in my entire collection. She's the reason I wanted to do this video, is because I wanted to talk about her. Also, I just like to talk about older dolls sometimes because I think that there's so much like on YouTube, there's so much like doll unboxing and doll review content of what's happening now, but I just like to talk about some of the dolls in my collection that maybe I don't see ever talked about. I'm sure there are YouTube videos about some of these dolls out there. I've personally they don't come up for me, so I just figured it was time for me to do this video because I just love the Wicked Witch of the West so much. Yeah, she's easily my number one. There's no competition. I think a lot of these dolls are really cool, but just because of my own personal attachment to this particular doll and how much I wanted her for so long, I still can't believe that she's here, like in person. Like I still can't, like when I pick her up and I look at her, I'm just like, I cannot believe that I have her in person. She's just one of my absolute favorites. Like one of my favorite things Barbie has probably ever done, which is saying a lot, but which is saying a lot. I do love witches. I love witch dolls. There's not enough witch dolls. Like I can't think of any current doll lines that include witch characters except maybe Monster High. But I feel like even in Monster High, there's like, it's like Dracula is a witch, but also she's a vampire. So the vampire thing kind of wins out and she just also happens to be a witch. I want more of this kind of like hocus pocus, ooky spooky kind of witchcraft situation happening in dolls, and I feel like we haven't seen this in a while. But please let me know if you agreed with my rankings. If you disagreed, definitely let me know in the comments. If there's any that I didn't mention that you really love as well, definitely let me know. But thank you guys so much for watching. Bye-bye!